What if I told you that animals can sometimes sense your emotions before another human even notices something is wrong? Not through words, not through conversation, but through tiny signals your body gives away without you even realizing it. Your breathing changes, your scent changes, your heartbeat changes, and somewhere nearby, an animal notices. A dog suddenly refuses to leave your side after a terrible phone call. A cat that normally ignores everyone quietly curls up beside you when you're sick. An elephant gently touches a grieving member of its herd, as if trying to offer comfort. At first, moments like these feel almost supernatural, like animals can somehow see emotions hidden beneath the surface. But here's the strange part. Science keeps discovering that they actually can. For a very long time, humans believed empathy belonged almost entirely to us. We saw emotions as something uniquely human, something tied to language, intelligence, and self-awareness. Animals, according to older scientific theories, operated mostly on instinct. Eat, survive, reproduce. That was the assumption. But over the last 2 decades, researchers studying animal behavior started noticing something difficult to explain away. Again and again, animals reacted differently to fear, sadness, grief, and stress. Not just within their own species. Toward humans, too. And the deeper scientists looked, the stranger it became. Take dogs, for example. Most people already feel like dogs understand emotions instinctively. But researchers wanted to know, were dogs actually detecting sadness? Or were they simply reacting to unusual behavior? To find out, scientists at the University of London ran an experiment. Volunteers sat in a room with dogs and either talked normally, hummed softly, or pretended to cry. The results were surprising. The dogs reacted differently almost every single time someone cried. Not aggressively, not fearfully, gently. Most approached the crying person slowly and made physical contact. Some leaned against them. Others simply rested nearby in silence. And here's what made the study especially interesting. The crying people were complete strangers. The dogs had no emotional bond with them. No training. No history. Which means the dogs weren't simply responding to familiarity. Something about distress itself seemed to trigger a response. Scientists described the behavior as possible emotional contagion, a primitive form of empathy, a process where one creature emotionally reacts to the feelings of another. And honestly, that idea is a little unsettling. Because if empathy exists outside humans, then emotions may not be as special or as isolated as we once believed. But dogs aren't sensing emotions through magic. The truth is far more fascinating. Their biology is incredibly powerful. Dogs experience the world primarily through smell. While humans rely heavily on vision, dogs live in a world of scents. Their noses contain hundreds of millions of scent receptors, far more than we possess. In fact, studies have shown that dogs can detect seizures before they happen. Some specially trained medical dogs can even identify certain cancers and changes in blood sugar levels. Think about that for a moment. A dog can sometimes detect changes happening inside a human body before the human notices them. So when people become stressed, anxious, or devastated, their bodies change. Hormones like cortisol and adrenaline are released through sweat and breath. To us, those changes are invisible. To a dog, they're information. Valuable information. Your sadness, quite literally, has a scent. And dogs are not the only animals capable of reading human emotions this way. In 2018, researchers studying horses discovered something fascinating. They showed horses photographs of human faces displaying different emotions while simultaneously playing voice recordings. Sometimes the emotions matched. Sometimes they didn't. For example, a smiling face paired with an angry voice. The horses reacted strongly whenever the signals conflicted. Their heart rates increased. They became visibly tense. And they focused intensely on the inconsistency, almost as if they were trying to solve a puzzle. Which emotion was real? The face or the voice? Think about that for a second. A horse was cross-referencing human facial expressions and vocal tones in real time. Not just observing, interpreting. Researchers believe that thousands of years living alongside humans may have shaped horses into remarkably skilled emotional readers. Animals capable of recognizing subtle human cues that most people overlook. And honestly, horses make sense. They are prey animals. Their survival depends on detecting danger quickly. Reading emotional tension became part of survival itself. But then scientists started seeing similar patterns in animals nobody expected. Like rats. Yes, rats. And this is where things become truly surprising. In one experiment conducted at the University of Chicago, researchers placed rats inside small enclosures. One rat was trapped. Another rat remained free outside. What happened next wasn't what scientists expected. Again and again, the free rats learned how to open the enclosure and release the trapped rat. And here's the part that stunned researchers. The free rats learned how to open the enclosure and release the trapped rat, even when there was absolutely no reward waiting for them. No food. No advantage. No increase in their chances of survival. Nothing. And the strangest part, some rats chose freeing another rat over eating chocolate. Think about that for a moment. Chocolate is one of the most powerful rewards a rat can receive. Yet in certain experiments, helping another animal seemed to matter more. Scientists believe this behavior may represent one of the most primitive forms of empathy ever documented in mammals. An emotional discomfort, triggered simply by witnessing another creature suffer. And if that's true, then empathy may run far deeper in the tree of life than we ever imagined. Then there are dolphins. And dolphins have a habit of making scientists uncomfortable. Not because they are dangerous, because they are difficult to explain. For decades, dolphins have displayed behaviors that feel eerily human. There are documented cases of dolphins supporting injured pod members near the surface of the water, helping them breathe when they cannot do it alone. Some wild dolphins have even been observed protecting humans from sharks, forming defensive circles around swimmers. Marine biologists still debate what exactly motivates these actions. Is it empathy? Is it cooperation? Or is it simply an extremely sophisticated social instinct? The truth is, we don't know. But whatever the explanation may be, the result looks remarkably similar to compassion. And then, there are elephants. If there's one animal that repeatedly forces scientists to rethink emotional intelligence, it's the elephant. Elephants mourn their dead. Not metaphorically. Not symbolically. Literally. Researchers observing elephant herds in Africa noticed something difficult to ignore. Again and again, elephants returned to the remains of deceased herd members. They gently touched skulls and tusks with their trunks. Sometimes they stood silently beside them for long periods, doing nothing, just staying. Even more haunting, elephants react strongly when another elephant is distressed. They gather around injured members. They touch them repeatedly. They remain close. They wait. Young elephants do it too, which suggests these comforting behaviors may not be learned entirely through observation. Some part of it appears to be instinctive. And once you realize that, you start seeing the animal kingdom differently. Because empathy is expensive. From a purely evolutionary perspective, caring about another creature's suffering shouldn't make much sense. It costs time. It costs energy. It costs attention. Sometimes, it even creates danger. So why would evolution preserve something like that? The answer may be surprisingly simple. Because for social species, survival depends on the group. A herd unable to recognize fear falls apart when danger arrives. A pack that ignores its injured members becomes weaker. A species incapable of forming strong social bonds becomes easier to destroy. Empathy may not have evolved as kindness. It may have evolved as infrastructure, a survival system, a biological technology that allows groups to function together. The ability to detect distress became an advantage. And over millions of years, some animals became extraordinarily good at it. But even after all the studies, all the brain scans, all the behavioral experiments, and all the scientific theories, one mystery still remains. What does empathy actually feel like to the animal? What happens inside a dog's mind when it quietly sits beside a crying human? What does an elephant experience when it refuses to leave a dead companion? Are they feeling grief the way humans do? Or are we witnessing something completely different, something that only resembles human emotion from the outside? The truth is, science can measure behavior. It can measure hormones. It can measure heart rates. But it still cannot fully enter another creature's consciousness. And maybe that's why moments like these feel so powerful. Because they remind us of something we often forget. Connection doesn't always require language. Sometimes, a creature that cannot speak still understands suffering better than words ever could. Maybe emotions were never uniquely human. Maybe long before humans built civilizations, wrote poetry, or invented language, life had already learned how to recognize pain. And somewhere, deep within the animal world, that ancient instinct still survives. Quietly, patiently, waiting for us to notice it.